Everyone thinks the smartest AI wins the coding fight. But one open harness hit 150,000 stars in a week and changed the fight. Shipped free August 13th under an MIT license. So what actually hit 150,000 stars? Not a models, a harness. When an AI writes code, something has to hand it your files, run your shell, call your tools, and remember the session. That wiring is the harness. In 2026, analysts argue the wiring, not the model, decides how well an agent performs. Start with the one that lit the fuse. DeepSeek's bet is openness. Everything is a swappable part. The model, the tools, the skills, a session's memory, the sandbox, the storage, the loop, the scheduler, even the screen you look at. Every single layer is a plug you can pull and replace. The GitHub API logged about 95,000 stars in the first 2 days alone, on the way to 150,000. Here's the payoff. Because the model is just another plug, you are not married to one company. Pointed at DeepSeek today, Anthropic tomorrow, your own endpoint next week. But if the model is a plug, what are the others betting on instead? Claude Code makes the opposite bet. Think first, type later. It plans carefully before it touches a single file. The engine underneath is Anthropic's Opus 4.6. In its beta mode, it can hold about 1 million pieces of text in mind at once. That's roughly a small library of code open on the desk at the same time. So it reads the whole problem before it moves. It also sustains one long task for longer without losing the thread. The trade-off against DeepSeek is clear. You get depth and planning. You give up the open, swap-anything design. One bets on being replaceable. The other bets on being smart enough that you won't want to replace it. But depth on one task is one strategy. What if you cared about cost and catching mistakes instead? Now the one built for scale. OpenAI Codex bets on ecosystem and correctness. Its command line tool ships under an Apache 2.0 license. The clever part is the price. It rides along with existing ChatGPT plans instead of a separate bill. So the cost is a subscription you may already pay. It also adds a safety loop. A second, separate agent reads your changes before you commit and flags problems, without touching your files. That reach adds up. OpenAI said Codex passed 5 million weekly users as of June 2nd, and about a fifth of them aren't developers at all. The trade-off, bundling ties you to OpenAI's world and its plan limits. Heavy use can hit the caps and push you to a pricier tier. Correctness and reach on one side. But what if you want raw breadth instead? Grok Build from XAI bets on breadth. Instead of one agent, run up to 8 at once. Each follows a plan, search, and build routine, and each works in its own isolated copy of the code so they don't step on each other. It even promises an arena mode, where competing outputs are pitted against each other and the best one wins. It launched May 14th, gated behind a high-tier plan. That gate is the trade-off. It's reportedly around $99 a month to start, climbing to about $300 once the intro ends. And in the early beta, that arena feature wasn't live yet. So the pitch is more work happening in parallel, safely walled off. But you pay for the room, and some of the doors were still locked. 4 bets, 4 prices. So how do you actually line them up? Here's where the 4 line up. On licensing, DeepSeek is MIT, Codex is Apache 2.0, and Claude Code and Grok Build stay proprietary. On price, DeepSeek is free and open, Codex rides your existing subscription, Grok Build sits behind that high-tier gate. On the model itself, DeepSeek lets you swap it freely, the others lock you to their own. On catching mistakes, Codex has its diff reviewer, Grok promises the arena, the rest lean on you. On maturity, Codex has 5 million weekly users and years of polish, while DeepSeek is 1 week old. And one honest warning on every number. Vendors grade their own homework. The star counts come from the GitHub API. The user counts come from the vendors themselves. So treat the leaders as roughly tied at the frontier, and attach a source to every figure you repeat. Now the whole picture clicks. There's no single winner because these are 4 different jobs. Want correctness and a cost that hides inside a subscription you already have. Codex. Want deep planning on one hard problem. Claude Code. Want lots of work in parallel and can afford the gate. Grok Build. Want to avoid getting locked to any one company and to tune the wiring yourself. The open harness. And that last idea is the master key to the whole fight. For years, the race was a bigger model. In 2026, the lever moved. One team took their coding agent from 30th to 5th place on a public benchmark with no new model at all. purely by improving the harness. The runtime is the differentiator now. Optimize the wiring, not just the brain. Here's the one thing to carry out of this. When you hear a coding AI claim, ask a second question. Not just how smart is the model, but what's the harness and who owns it? An open, model-agnostic harness means the model becomes a part you can swap, so switching costs less and no single vendor holds the keys. That's the real story behind 150,000 stars in a week. The fight left the model and moved to the wiring around it. So what does a free, MIT-licensed harness mean for everyone else? It sets a floor. A swappable, model-agnostic baseline that anyone can fork pressures the closed players and quietly lowers the cost of switching for all of us. Next time, we open the box on how one of these agents actually plans a change before it writes a line. This is information, not financial or career advice. Do your own research.